All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is Friday. Happy Friday to everyone out there. September 6th, we have a full MLB slate to dive into in today's video like we always do. We're going to go through each and every one of these games. I'm going to give you my lean on the side. I'll give you my lean on the total. We'll talk about any other plays, like player props that we like within the game as well. But as always, all of my final plays, if you do want to fade me, all of my final plays are going to be in the pinned comment. In terms of yesterday, a nice little 2-0 night. It's not enough for the money gun. Not enough for the money gun. We wouldn't whoop that out on a 2-0 night. But you know what? It is 2 sweeps in a row. That's a mini sweep tonight, but we were 3-0 2 nights ago. We followed up with a nice little 2-0 night last night. But again, no money gun. That would never enter the screen, right? And we had a slightly profitable night in the Thursday Night Football season opener as well, because Xavier Worthy comes through the touchdown, and we had the under that hit by a half a point. So you know what? Last night was pretty good to us, sports betting-wise. Unfortunately, the ride of the day does not come through. Gotta drop the womp womp on my man Puffy, always throwing out bangers. This was the rare non-occurrence here. Giants, Diamondbacks, Nerfy. Blake Snell goes out there and does not look very good. Diamondbacks scored 2 off of him early on. Unfortunately, the ride of the day does not catch. If you guys don't know what the ride of the day is, it is simple. All you have to do is use that hashtag ride of the day in the comments. I jump on board with one person's play, give you a shout out in the next video, win or loss. If you win, we continue to ride with your plays. If you lose, you gotta face the womp womp. So get those hashtag ride of the days in the comments. Let's throw out a banger on this lovely Friday. Let's get on the win train here. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button as well. Celebrate the fact that we are 5-0 in our last 2 days in the MLB. One more little cha-ching for good luck. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Let's rock here. We're starting it off with the Cubs and the New York Yankees here. Cubs, heavy underdogs at home. Yankees, obviously heavy favorites. In terms of what they've done recently, the Yankees have lost 6 of their last 10 games. The Cubs have won 7 of their last 10, including their most recent game 2 days ago, a 12-0 win over Pittsburgh. Looks like we're going to have a chance of precipitation in Chicago here, but some heavy wins or fast wins. So that's why that total is way down there. I kind of look at that and say you still have 2 incredibly good offenses. The Yankees have proven what they are, right? Even in their losses lately, they're scoring 5+ runs, but they're just having other teams score more, right? And then the Cubs, I just mentioned it, right? 12-0 in their last game. Prior to that Pittsburgh series against Washington, 7-5-14. Prior to that, when they played Pittsburgh the first time, 18-9-14. So this Cubs team is definitely firing right now. And I know there's a lot of wind across breeze, not even a breeze, cross gusts, which is making this total go down. But I think my immediate lean is taking a peek at the over. Like, I get there's a lot of wind, but you have 2 offenses that are cooking right now. Both pitchers are righties. We have expected pitchers. I've seen Jordan Wicks, but also Javier Assad on the Chicago side of things, going up against Luis Gil. If it's Javier Assad, then obviously we're looking at a righty. Luis Gil on the mound, or Luis Gil on the mound for the Yankees is a righty. Both of these teams against righties have been crushing. Top 10 in most main categories, including average, WRC+, OPS, ISO, and slugging. So I'm almost fading the weather in this thought and leaning towards the over. If you had to give me if I had to make a money line pick, I think I'm going to lean Cubs. Luis Gil throws a ton of fastballs, over 50% of his pitches. He then moves on to the slider and the changeup. None of those pitches are god-awful for the Cubs. In fact, the 3rd best team in the league last 30 days against the fastball would be that Chicago team. So if they can tag up his fastball, you're giving me plus 120 with them at home. I think that's the lean. But the over may be my biggest, the thing that I like the most in this game. All right, Milwaukee taking on Colorado in Milwaukee here. Looks like we have Frankie Montas on the mound going up against Ryan Feltner. This is probably a spot in which I do end up leaning Milwaukee, but not all that strongly. Like, Frankie Montas to me is a hit or miss guy, and we've actually, since he's been a Milwaukee Brewer, been pretty good at deciding when he's going to have good games and when he's not. He's coming off of 2 absolutely forgettable performances against Oakland and Cincinnati. Both those offenses can kind of hit. They're not the most consistent, but even still, like, I still think that's a kind of a knock on him, right? And this Colorado's Rockies team is probably going to be a saving grace. They haven't scored over 3 runs in like 5 or 6 games, so I think this is a Brewers spot. The odds would indicate that as well. I'm going to lean towards the Brewers, but as some sort of a money line throw-in. In terms of what we have for a total, it's sitting at 7.5. I don't necessarily like the idea of Milwaukee going out there and scoring a bunch, but I do think that they can put up 4, maybe 5 off Feltner. So something about this makes me want to lean towards the over. That being said, both pitchers actually have decent stats against the current roster here. Feltner, 39 plate appearances against. It's fairly small, but, still sizable enough. 216 average against, and a WOBA against 216 as well. Frankie Montas, 64 plate appearances against the current guys in this team, 271 average against, 312 expected WOBA, 263 expected batting average. So both of these guys sub 300 in those ranges. I get why this total is down there, but I'm still going to lean slightly towards the over. I think this Milwaukee team, if they win this game, it's via offense today, not because Frankie Montas put on a huge performance. Speaking of huge performance, let me talk to you guys about Sleeper. If you're not on Sleeper yet, you are missing out, and you are missing out on all of the free squares and free action that they have for the NFL season. Jordan Love, 0.5 passing yards for tonight's game. Then we have Kyler Murray, 0.5 passing yards. They also have a 0.5 passing yards line for Aaron Rodgers, and they do tons of discounts throughout the week as well. Like they do on Fridays, like they do on Sundays. So a lot of discounts over on Sleeper. If you have not checked it out yet and it's available in your state, make sure to do so. You're going to get all of that free action as well as the discounts that I'm sure they will be dropping, as well as 100% of your first deposit match. So go ahead and check it out, guys. That link is in the pinned comment. You're going to get all the free squares and the deposit match just by using that link to download. And if you want to make sure you're getting all that action when you're downloading and depositing, make sure to use code GUYBOSTON, GUYBOSTON. Speaking of Jordan Love and whatnot, we also have our Packers and Phillies picks video out right now. I'll link that in the pinned comment as well. If you guys do want to go check that out and watch that, we have that video live on the channel as well. But let's keep cooking here with this MLB slate. Moving into the Pirates taking on the Nats. We have Luis Ortiz on the mound going up against DJ Hurst. DJ Hurst is like a conundrum to me. Sometimes I like what he does and he looks really, really good, and then he'll follow it up just like he did last game against the Cubs. 4 2/3, 4 earned runs, no home runs, but 2 walks, 3 hits. Like, you don't even really know if he pitched well or not, whereas Ortiz has been kind of firing. Now, he's only gone up against Cincinnati and Cleveland in those last 2 starts, so not powerhouse offenses, but he's pitched 6 innings in both of those, 0 earned runs in his last 2 games here, striking out 10, so 5 per. I don't mind Luis Ortiz. The problem is, do I like the Pirates, for minus 120? I think it's going to be the side that we end up leaning towards, kind of just backing the better pitcher, because this Pirates offense isn't anything to kind of write home about, right? But if Ortiz goes out there and continues to deal and even gives the bullpen somewhat of a buffer, I don't think Washington's this powerhouse offense that's going to go in there and make the bullpen pay or anything like that. So we do definitely need some runs out of them. We saw Pittsburgh win, 8-4 yesterday, something like that, right? Maybe they go out there and do that again. I'd like to see it. Washington really only hits the fastball and cutter well. Luis Ortiz does have those in the bags, but he's going to throw a ton of sliders, and sinkers, which are 2 of the worst pitches that Washington hits. So I do like the fact that we could see, Pittsburgh maybe in a good situation here. I just don't know if I love them for minus 120. Like, I'd rather them for plus money or near even odds. I think they were like minus 110-ish yesterday. That's probably the better spot. But keep an eye on the pinned comment. In terms of a total, I like the under. Again, I'm kind of backing the Pirates just because of the pitching, and I'm hoping the Nationals offense doesn't go off. And I don't think the Pirates recreate what they do yesterday. In fact, I said 8 runs. They scored 9 runs yesterday. So I'm going to slightly lean towards the under 8.5 in this spot. All right, Baltimore taking on Tampa Bay. I don't necessarily have the strongest of feelings here. You have Baltimore coming off of a loss to the White Sox, 8-1. Maybe they were due. They had won 13-3, 9-0, and then it just flips on its head. They lose 8-1. Dean Kramer on the mound for them. I don't love saying that out loud either. He hasn't looked all that great in his last couple starts. Hasn't looked terrible. It hasn't looked all that great. Going up against Shane Bays here, who's looked okay in his last couple starts. Like, you might even be able to make the argument that Tampa Bay has the starting pitching advantage, especially the way Kramer's pitched at home this year. But he throws a ton of fastballs. In fact, let's just jump into the sheet to walk through this one. First off, he's a righty, and you guys know or should know how I feel against Tampa Bay, about Tampa Bay against righties. They don't hit him very well. They're almost dead last in nearly every crucial category here. But what I'm looking at is the fact that we're going to get fastball and cutter as the 2 main pitches. Then it moves on to the splitter and then the sinker from Dean Kramer, right? What a good pitch mix against this Tampa Bay team. 30th in runs above average against the fastball, right? 29th in runs above average against the cutter. You go to the splitter, 25th, so only 6 off the worst in the league, right? And then even their best pitch that he's going to throw, the best pitch they hit is the sinker, minus 117. So Baltimore probably in a better spot here. You can see their offense hasn't been all that great, but against righties at home in the last 30 days, they've looked okay. So using our dashboard here, which, by the way, if you haven't seen this before, this is the dashboard that we built for the NBA season and MLB season. We do have a dashboard for all sports, but it took me 3 tries to get to MLB, that we built in Google Sheets. It's super easy to use, really good to give you a starting point for your betting. So if you guys do want access to that, just become a channel member here on YouTube. $2.99 per month. You get a link on the channel members tab on the channel every single day with the updated dashboard. So yeah, it's every single game. Look at 1, 2, it's down here at the bottom of the tabs, right? And just gives you kind of an idea of, well, green is good, red is bad. Where can we find the, the spots and the value in this game? This dashboard definitely helps it. Because again, we look at this, that's really red. I look at his pitch mix, it lines up perfectly. So if you guys do want access to this, again, just become a channel member. It's $2.99 per month. You're probably spending more on that, on coffee per day. You know what I mean? And this is really, really good. And I love the fact that people use it and think it's really great. So yeah, this helps us find plays every day, just like it did in this one. And you're getting decent odds. I know the graphic says minus 142, but you can get the Baltimore Orioles for minus 130 right now, minus 132 actually. That might be the move, just because I don't believe in Kramer, but it could be a good matchup for him. So give me Baltimore. In terms of the total, I'll lean towards the under, because again, I want Kramer pitch well, right? And then secondarily, this Baltimore offense isn't like foolproof to me right now. I know they just scored a bunch of runs against Colorado and then the White Sox, but even if they go out there and score 6 runs today, like, it's not a guarantee that the Rays put up 3, right? So I'm going to lean slightly towards the under, but I'm much more likely and leaning towards placing a bet here on Baltimore money line. All right, what color are your socks? Red or white? We got the Red Sox taking on the White Sox here in this spot. Nick Pivetta on the mound for the Red Sox. I almost said the Sox. Can't do that here. Going up against Davis Martin for the White Sox. This Red Sox offense has slowed down quite a lot, which is tough to see, because that was kind of the only thing keeping them in the lane of like relevance, right? Their pitching fell off before the offense did, but now they just have not looked all that great. Like, listen to their last 5 games here. 1 run scored, 1 run scored, 1 run scored, 2 runs scored, and then whoa, 3 runs scored. You know what I mean? Like, they are barely getting runs across the plate. But we're talking about Chicago here. Their last 5 games, 3-0, 3-0, and then yes, 8 against Baltimore a couple days ago. But their offense is not all that great, which is why we're looking at the Red Sox team. I almost said Yankees team, a Red Sox team that is so heavily juiced. This could be a spot in which I consider maybe looking at like the Red Sox team total over. I think we can get good odds for that right now. It's got to be a plus money. I'm trying to keep an eye on it, but over 5.5 right now for plus 120. Like, maybe the Red Sox go off, but isn't that completely against what we've been talking about? It's the only bit of like value I could potentially find in this game, because even if we look at the dashboard, right, you can see Pivetta is going to throw a ton of fastballs and a ton of sliders here. Well, that's great. The fastball, they don't hit well. The slider, they don't hit well. But it's like this Red Sox offense, I don't want to sit here and brag about them, right? Fastball, slider, cutter, changeup, all of those pitches, they don't necessarily hit. Both of the bullpens are kind of trashy right now. So it's like, yeah, this isn't necessarily a spot in which I think the Red Sox have the biggest advantage, but maybe they go out there and score some runs today. So that's what I would look at. But I don't think that I make a wager on this game, just due to the fact that both teams are struggling. The Red Sox are way too juiced. And like I said, I maybe look at Red Sox team total over as a total play, but I doubt anything comes out of this one. All right, Mets taking on Cincinnati here. We have the Mets coming off of I want to say, let's see if we can find that really quickly. A 7-game win streak, coming off of a sweep of the White Sox, then a sweep of the Red Sox. They took 2 of 3 against the Diamondbacks prior to that. They're playing some good baseball. You flip to the other hand, 5-5 in their last 10 are the Reds, but they just swept Houston, and they've won 4 straight now. So I don't think that there's, like this massive Mets advantage. Now, Sean Manaea is on the mound. I would take him over Fernando Cruz, who's pitching right now. He's going to throw a ton of, Sean Manaea, going to throw a ton of sinkers. That is a good pitch that the Reds hit, but what do I tell you guys? I kind of only like to back the Reds when it's a heavy fastball thrower. 13% of Manaea's pitches are fastballs, so not enough for me to be on the Mets side here. I'm going to lean towards on the Red side here. I'm going to lean towards the Mets. The problem being minus 185 is a little bit too juiced. So the way that I would look at this and kind of, I guess, beat around the bush to try and get a Mets play in, if that is what we end up wanting to roll with, would be a first 5 run line right now. Minus 0.5 in the first 5 for the Mets would be minus 125 over on FanDuel. So that could be something that we consider overall, just to kind of get, we're backing the Mets here, but we don't have to pay that minus 185 juice. They do have what I would consider maybe a slightly worse bullpen on the season than the Reds too, so we're getting even better value for them to win the first 5 and not having to worry about their bullpen coming in. So definitely a spot we could consider there in that one. In terms of the total, I think Manaea pitches well, but 7.5 seems a little bit too low. This Reds team, other than the game against Houston last game, had been scoring a decent amount of runs. They're giving you like 4 as a minimum in their last 6 or so. In the Mets offense, kind of the same thing. They have an anomaly of 2 runs scored against the White Sox, but before that it was 5-5. Then they went 4-7-8. Like, this team's scoring as well. So I think that we could be seeing an over here in this spot as well. I'm not sure where we're at weather-wise, but overall, if we have normal weather and light winds, I like the over 7.5. But I have to check that weather. Meteorologist Ev was late to the job today. All right, Miami taking on Philadelphia. Looks like we're going to have Zach Wheeler on the bump going up against Edward Cabrera. Zach Wheeler throws a ton of fastballs. He's very good at it. It is one pitch, and it's worth noting one pitch that this Miami team does hit well. He moves on to the slider, and Miami hits that one well as well. But overall, I don't think that we can kind of look past Zach Wheeler in a spot here. I like them on the first 5. We cashed that yesterday. Right now, their odds overall are just a little bit too juiced. If you wanted Philly money line, it's minus 225. But if we go first 5 run line at minus 0.5, you're paying minus 140 on DK. So I think that that's the better value. It's pretty much isolating it to Zach Wheeler as well, which is never a bad thing to do, in my opinion. He has 48 plate appearances against this current Miami roster, 267 batting average against, a WOBA of 272, slugging of 386. Like, he should be able to do enough of the job to let the Phillies go out there and maybe score a couple early. Now, they didn't necessarily score that many early yesterday, right? I think it was 1-0 after 5, and then they went off in the 6th. So they still got the job done for us, but that offense, I want to see a little bit more out of them going up against Cabrera, who they have tagged in the past to some degree. 89 plate appearances against. He has a walk rate of 17%, so maybe that's a thing too. We look at his walks. And then over is the course of those 89 plate appearances, 274 batting average against, a WOBA of 379, and a slugging of 414. So those are not good enough for me to even consider Miami, and we have a stud pitcher on the mound for the Phillies. We can get a decent price for them for the first 5 run line. So that is going to be the direction I lean in here. And let me check really quickly that Edward Cabrera walk line. In fact, why don't I let you guys come along for the ride as we check? We'll jump right into Outlier. All we have to do is go to the player prop screen. We type in Edward. It's as simple as this, if I could spell it. You can go into any of this, and we'll just find base on balls. Over 2.5, yeah. So that's I was looking for a 1.5 line. I don't think we have. Over 1.5 is minus 300. So unfortunately, yeah, we probably won't be playing that. But hey, shout out to Outlier for helping us find that one out that quickly there. And I don't think we talked about the total in this one overall, but this is probably either a Phillies team total over or a Miami team total under. I don't think that I don't see these two teams correlating in how they're playing, so I'm going to end up either taking, if we do bet it, one of the two. But I think my main one in this one is going to be, like I mentioned, even yesterday we rolled with it. I don't want to do the same thing 2 days in a row, but I still like the value. We might even have a better pitcher today, that Phillies first 5 run line. All right, Atlanta taking on Toronto. Max Fried on the mound going up against Kevin Gausman. Again, I guess both of these guys, I was going to say just Gausman, but I wish both these guys were as consistent as they had been in years past. Even Max Fried has been, I don't want to say all over the place, but for him, technically all over the place. So we have a really good pitching matchup against 2 offenses that are, actually starting to play better, but still not at full peak. I think that I immediately look at a potential play of the Nerfy, no runs in the first inning, and or the first 5 under here. But in terms of who I like on the money line, it's probably going to be the Braves, but that minus 175 price tag, not all that much. But I am going to back Max Fried at home compared to Gausman. Gausman's been a little bit better on the road this year, surprisingly enough, but I like the Braves offense right now, and I think a slight little edge towards Fried being the better pitcher. So Atlanta on the money line, but again, my main plays may be the first 5 under if we can get a good price at that, as well as the no runs in the first inning, so under 0.5 in the first inning. All right, next game up, we have Texas taking on the Angels here. Gerson Garabito on the mound going up against Samuel Aldehedi. I don't know either one of these pitchers all that well, but that doesn't really impact where I'm at right now. I think that this one comes down to the offenses and the fact that both these pitchers are going to throw a lot of fastballs. Neither one of these teams hit fastballs all that well. Texas doesn't hit lefties all that well. LA not hitting righties all that well right now. So I think I immediately lean towards a first 5 under. We can get decent odds at that. The problem is, am I betting that without knowing enough about these pitchers? Do you know what I mean? Like, are these guys going to go out there and let up a bunch of runs? And that's why we have some good value here. But just with that offense in mind, plus 118 for under 4.5 in the first 5, under 5.5 at minus 140. I really don't mind the idea of that, you know? In terms of money line, I still think Texas has the better offensive bats in there, even when they're not necessarily performing. So I will lean towards them there. But again, this is a spot in which I'm kind of just admitting that I don't know enough about these pitchers to fully back other than what they've done this season. All right, Kansas City taking on the Twins. If you guys made it this far into the video, go ahead and comment 20 and let me know who you immediately think of when you see the number 20. We've done that before. I gave mine out, and it's just because I'm a massive Celtics fan. Ray Allen kind of steals that spot, but we saw a bunch of good names. It is a cool number that I feel like isn't used enough. Like, obviously, the 23s are in football, like the 80s, 85s, like those numbers are used plenty. But 20 is such a good number, but I feel like we don't have as many people that we would. I know we had a lot of, what was it, Barry Sanders, right, last time we did it. But let me know in the comments who you think of when you think of number 20. Because to me, it goes right to Ray Allen, but then I saw a bunch of Barry Sanders, and I like that answer as well. Let's see if we got any obscure ones out there today. But let's jump into this game. We have Kansas City taking on the Twins. Cole Reagan's on the mound going up against Zebby Matthews. Kansas City has not been playing the best baseball. They've lost 7 of their last 10 games. Now, they are at home. They're usually better at home, but we could even say at home, recently, so their last series against Cleveland, they lost. They didn't score that many runs. That being said, for -1, you can get minus 130 right now with Reagan's on the mound, who probably is a slight pitching upgrade over Zebby Matthews and a better offense. Reagan's going to throw a bunch of changeups and fastballs. Minnesota not hitting those that well. This is probably a Minnesota spot from, Kansas City spot for me as I hiccup to death. I wish this was more in like the -120s. I know I'm splitting hairs, but that's kind of where I have this game, like a nice value at -120. In fact, we'd have to pay mid -130s. Maybe a little overkill, but still, I can't really get to the Twins side in this one. I like the idea of Reagan's in the spot, and he's actually looked good against this Twins roster. 55 plate appearances against, a 36.4% K rate, an average against of 189, expected batting average against of 230, and an expected WOBA of 286. So he should be primed to pitch well. I'm just a little concerned as to, are we going to get the Royals offense that, when you bet the Royals, you're hoping that you have, or are we going to get a Royals offense that has been struggling as of late like they have? But overall, I like the Royals in this spot. In terms of a total, it's a tough one. I think this one lands right around 8, so the slightest of lean towards the overs, but nothing that I'm racing to the books to plays. I'd go Royals money line, and then even considering Royals first 5 money line as well, because they do have a slight bullpen disadvantage here. So that could definitely be something that we consider more than even the full game money line. All right, Houston taking on Arizona here. You have Houston as huge favorites. Framber Valdez on the mound there, going up against Brandon Pfaadt for the Arizona Diamondbacks here. This Diamondbacks team has been cashing for us. Now, yesterday we didn't decide to roll with it because they were going up against Blake Snell. They get off against Blake Snell. Pause. That didn't sound right. But they do a good job against Blake Snell, and then they go dormant for the rest of the game. I couldn't believe it. They lose 3-2. Houston has lost 3 games in a row. They got swept by Cincinnati. They did score 5 runs in one of those games, but Cincinnati scored 12. Here in this spot, I think that this is a nice little spot to catch a Diamondbacks team that is really good as of late for plus 150. Now, the issue is that they had to go from San Francisco to Houston to play, right? Whereas Houston went from, Cincinnati to Houston, so a little bit different. But still, both teams had to travel. I don't necessarily sit here and say that Framber Valdez is that much better than Brandon Pfaadt, right? Like, he's been okay. Pfaadt struggled a little bit on the road this year. I get that. But Valdez, has struggled at times as well. He throws a bunch of sinkers. In fact, if we jump back into the dash, you could see he throws a ton of sinkers. Well, whoopee-ki-yay. Number 1 team in the league last 30 days against the sinker. He is a lefty. lefty, they hit lefties really well. Like, this could be a decent spot for the Arizona Diamondbacks to go out there and at least score some runs. So I'm also going to lean towards the over. I like this spot as well. I know we have two good pitchers on the mound, but 7.5 with the position that these two offenses are in, I immediately like the over as well. So keep an eye on the pinned comment. We could go Arizona Diamondbacks money line, maybe a little sprinkle because it's plus 150, but I also like the over. So could be a multiple plays coming from this game. All right, St. Louis taking on Seattle. I think this is going to be a decent series, decent matchup. We have Fedde on the mound for St. Louis going up against Bryce Miller for Seattle, who had been looking really good until he played the Angels and didn't have his best game last time out. You can make the same argument for Fedde. He was pitching well, and then the Yankees kind of got to him. He did have 8 strikeouts through 5 1/3, but 4 earned runs and 1 home run there. In terms of who's been pitching better, Bryce Miller's been pitching better, but at home, not on the road. This St. Louis offense against righties is fairly good as well, so there is some sort of a path to get to St. Louis today. But to me, this is still a really good. I believe in this Seattle team, especially when their offense is cooking like it has in the last 2 games. Like, they're going to not let guys score a lot, right? Because they have such good pitching. And then if they score 16 runs or 6 runs, like, they're tough to beat. So I'm using those last 2 games that Seattle played and saying, you know what, I kind of like the spot here. Now, in terms of what they had to do, they had to go from Oakland to St. Louis. So yes, they had to travel. St. Louis, on the other hand, got to travel from Milwaukee, have a day off, and waiting at home. But to me, this is just it's a Seattle spot, especially because you're getting minus 105 near even odds. I think that they're the better team, and I don't think St. Louis is going to have that much of a success rate against Bryce Miller and even that Seattle bullpen. In terms of a total, though, I don't think Seattle's going to go out there and score a bunch of runs like they have been, but I think they can give you, 4 runs, which may be enough here. And if that's the case, we have to look at an under, right? So under 7.5 is going to be the spot as well. All right, Oakland taking on Detroit. Not exactly the game that I'm salivating at the mouth to go out there and get, but we do have Tariq Skubal on the mound, so that obviously gives us some reason to look further into this and see if there is some value, and I did find a little bit. Minus 0.5 in the first 5 for Detroit here, for only minus 120 over on DraftKings. You're backing Tariq Skubal against, yes, some people consider Oakland a decent offense, but against lefties, not very good whatsoever. 225 average last 30 days, that's good enough for the, 23rd best in the MLB, like, not all that great. They do walk a decent amount, but you're not going to see Skubal walk many guys, so there goes one of their superpowers. So yeah, I don't mind it. And then Mitch Spence on the mound for Oakland throws a ton of fastballs, and this Detroit team, top 10 team against hitting the fastball. His third pitch is the sinker. They're actually a very good team against the sinker as well. The splitter, I think, right? Yeah, the splitter. So I think that they're a good team against the splitter as well. So there we go. Like, I don't mind the idea of Detroit and their hitting ability against Mitch Spence's pitch mix, but this is really backing Tariq Skubal. So if you want to go with first 5 run line, I don't mind that. Another thing that I would consider would be the first 5 under. That being said, under 4.5 or minus 170, little too juiced for my liking. So give me Detroit on the first 5 run line. Go out there and score. But like I said, I don't think this is a high scoring game. I like the first 5 under as well. All right, San Diego Padres taking on the San Francisco Giants here. Obviously, we just talked about the Giants and Blake Snell not pitching well, but then they go out there and actually end up winning the game 3-2, which is kind of crazy, just given the fact of how that game started, right? 2-0 at the top of the first inning, and then nothing else for the Diamondbacks for the rest. In terms of what we're liking in this one here, I have been liking San Diego and their offense. Michael King, I do like as a pitcher as well. He's been pitching really well, 1.6 ERA over his last 5. Mason Black is making his, I think, second start in the last couple months. He pitched in late August, so this is his second start in a row. He didn't look all that phenomenal there, but this is a Padres offense that is very, very good, right? So I think we have to give a little bit of credit there to them. They have the better pitcher, the better offense, and the better bullpen. The problem is they're minus 218. So maybe this is a spot in which we can look at, Padres in some sort of money line parlay, linking it up with one of the other huge favorites on the board, maybe like the one that we're about to talk about next. So that's how I would play it. I also don't mind the Padres scoring some runs if you can get them at all at good, money over 4.5. In fact, let's use Outlier and find that really, really quickly, just to see what we're kind of talking about in the odds range here, because we don't have that up as of right now. But Padres over 4.5 runs for minus 104, not terrible. So actually, yeah, that could be a play. Now, again, I'd rather 3.5. I always like the 3.5s more than the 4.5s, but what sports better wouldn't? But that might be a move that we could think of too, because then you're kind of backing the Padres that their offense will continue without having to go out there and pay that minus 218 price. But hell, they could be another one of the spots in which we've kind of done it multiple times in today's video if we stick with that strategy, that we look at the Padres on the first 5 run line, right, to try and get a decent number, saying that they get off to the races and win, because minus 140 right now for minus 0.5, that ain't all that terrible either. All right, in our last game of the day, we have the Dodgers taking on the Guardians. We have Matthew Boyd on the mound for the Cleveland Guardians, going up against Logan Knack here for the Dodgers. I think this Dodgers team is the better offense, and that's kind of what's catapulting this play. Now, it's not minus 155 anymore. It's more in the minus 140s, so maybe that's a good thing, I guess, right? But overall, I do think that this is just going to be an offensive game for the Dodgers. I don't see Matthew Boyd having won the pitch mix or the ability, I guess, even to shut down this Dodgers team, especially, now this sounds kind of ass backwards, but especially because he's done so in the past. He has some decent numbers against the current guys on the team, only 40-ish plate appearances against, but 263 expected batting average, expected WOBA 321, expected slugging 375, like not all that bad, right? But that tells me someone's due for aggression. So I like the Dodgers here. They might even be a nice money line play for us as well in terms of a final play. Like, I'm not just breezing past this one. This definitely could be a play that we like. And they've been playing decent baseball, except they're coming off a bad loss to the Angels, right? 10-1 a couple days ago. So maybe this is a spot in which they get back on track and right the ship. So I like that. In terms of a total, I guess a slight lean towards the over because I think it's going to be offensive, but I'm much more inclined to pull the trigger on the Dodgers on the money line. But guys, it's going to wrap it up for today's show. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well. Appreciate all the love on the Thursday Night Football video. Again, we went 2-2, cashed the under, but we cashed a half unit play at plus 190 for Xavier Worthy touchdown. He scored 2 in that game, so came out on top a little bit. So excited for football season, and like I mentioned, we have our Packers and Eagles plays live now. Trey has his plays out for the week. Tassos is going to be throwing out a Sunday Night Football video, and then I'll have the Sunday slate as well as Monday Night Football coming out in the next few days. So a lot of football content, and we're still sticking true to what we've been doing with the MLB and WNBA as well. So tons of free content on the channel. So hit that like button, and again, hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. But I'll catch you guys in the next one, all right? Peace out.